training process videos. I've got another video here that I'd like to do some more supplemental advice over things where people might be getting a little too visual or a little too overwhelmed. These things can really help, okay? Rooms, doing things in rooms. We used to do rooms as a kind of the mandatory. This is how we're going to do this. We're always going to use rooms because it works, and it does. And you're more than welcome to use rooms every time, as long as somebody doesn't state that it doesn't work for them or something. But what it does is it's during the isolation process. So instead of saying, okay, let's take that part of you that feels worthless and isolate that, and so now it's isolated in the subconscious memory. What we literally do, if people really struggle with isolating it, it doesn't just encapsulate on its own, but rather they're still overwhelmed by other things. That they're still feeling the threat of their dad, and they're still feeling the judgment of their mom, and they're still feeling, these other things around worthless, and it's just too overwhelming. Rooms do a great job of helping them visualize and isolate that thing. And so what we do is we say, okay, let's take that part of you that feels worthless, and we're going to put that part of you in your mind's eye. We're going to put that part of you in a room. Okay? And in that room, there is a door. In the door, there's a window. If we could bring Jesus to this part of you, and we could bring Jesus to the window and have him look through the window to see you feeling worthless there, how does Jesus feel towards you? Okay? That way, all they're seeing is this, and it's protected by walls from dad and from mom or whatever the other threats are, because it's in a room by itself with the door locked. All there is just one window, and the only person looking through that window, it's not dad, it's not mom, it's Jesus, right? It's isolated there, and so it helps them take the overwhelm away. That can be incredibly powerful. And it's just really neat to see how it works with this. It's the same thing as saying isolate. You're doing the same work, but it is really unique how it happens that inside this room is literally the subconscious mind, and outside this room is the conscious mind. It just works that way. So dividing and conquering, and then you're building emotion. You can build the emotion of Jesus on the outside as he looks through the window, and it makes this part want to open the door. And so it really does a good job of those two main principles of divide and conquer and building emotion. So that's the rooms, and you can use the rooms with, and you would do the same thing for somebody that really needs it. You'd do the same thing. If you've got a God lie, okay, use the same process, but instead you say, in your mind's eye, let's take this false version of Jesus and place him in his own room. If we could go to Scripture and grab the Jesus of Scripture and bring him back so that he could look through this window and see that false version of himself inside, how would he feel? That's how you do with a God lie. Or with a guardian lie, same thing. Let's take this part of you that wants to shut down, or this part of you that says, I don't know. This part of you that just doesn't want to know. Because remember, I don't know isn't actually true. They do know. They just don't want to. Okay? It's part of denial. So then you'd say, okay, let's take this part of you that doesn't want to know. Let's bring Jesus to that part of you. If he could look through the window and see that part of you that just doesn't want to know, doesn't want to look at it, how does he feel towards that part of you? Building the emotion, you've divided and conquered, okay? So it's just adding a few sentences of language to help the person really isolate those feelings that they've got, okay? So that's room. When you've got somebody that's really visual, they'll literally do the process themselves for the most part. They just need a little help from you. So if you've got somebody that, man, they just go hyper visual, and it's a story inside their head. They are, they're sitting in the tree stand. And as they're in the tree stand, they're experiencing this worthlessness, and they're in the tree stand. They're not in a room, they're not, but it's just very visual in their head. They're sitting in a tree stand feeling worthless. You say, okay, well, let's bring Jesus to that part of you that feels worthless. How does he feel towards you? And then they'll say, he's standing in the mud at the bottom of the tree stand. That's where he is. And so they're just going very visual. If they're going very visual like that, a great way to move them through the process is just keep saying this. And then what happens? Because they're already there. They're in it. They're experiencing the emotion to a 10, and they're experiencing Jesus to a 10. So you say, he's in the mud down at the bottom of the tree stand. Well, and then what happens? He calls up to me and says, will you join me in the mud? As the facilitator is like, whoa, what's happening here? What's going on? And then what happens? I tell him no. And then what happens? He shows me the scars in his hands, and he says, I'm worth it. And then what happens? I come down out of the tree stand. And then what happens? We walk to my house. And then what happens? And slowly but surely, then Jesus, through them, in their subconscious mind, Jesus is literally showing them the truth that they need as they're interacting with their conscious mind and their subconscious mind. They're connected. The conscious and subconscious are just thoroughly connected in that moment, and they're just going back and forth inside their mind. It's actually beautiful to watch when you've got somebody that operates that way. And then what happens is just a very good way to guide somebody through if they're feeling very emotional. Breathing. Okay. This is what's very unique about breathing, okay? Our amygdala, okay, our brain, the backside of our brain, just on top of our brainstem is the amygdala. That's our fear center. That's where all of our emotions come up. Our emotions come up into our conscious mind, and all of a sudden we're afraid of something. We didn't decide to be afraid. All of a sudden we're just experiencing fear. We didn't decide to do that. It just happened. Or all of a sudden we want to run away. Or all of a sudden we're getting really tired. These emotions are coming up. They're coming out of our amygdala. What's really interesting is there's one way, and the amygdala controls the autonomic nervous system, if I'm saying that right. So the amygdala controls your heart rate, it controls your blood pressure, it controls your breathing, it controls your blinking, okay? It does all of that, and it controls the emotions. So when you experience that emotion, all of a sudden your heart starts racing and your breathing gets heavier or faster, right? So there's one way. If somebody is really getting overwhelmed, that means the amygdala is taken over. There's too much subconscious going on, and we're not able to keep control of the situation. One way that you can hijack the amygdala is by taking over something that's automatic, breathing. So if somebody's really overwhelmed, they're just unable to process, and they can't even think straight, and you've tried all your guardian process, and you've done everything you can to get through that stuff, but they are just having a panic attack, or they're hyperventilating, or they just are bawling their eyes out. They're just completely stuck, sometimes screaming or yelling, and they're just not present. What you can do is say, okay, let's stop. Let's take a time out. I need you to breathe. Okay, we're going to do some breathing exercises to see if we can take over our fear center here, our amygdala, the emotional center. So you say, okay, I want you to breathe in, take it, and do this kind of how you want, but a very typical way is I want you to breathe in as big as you can for a count of 4. In, hold it for 5 seconds, and then breathe out for 8 seconds, and get all that air out, all of it out. Then breathe in and do 10 rotations of that. In for 4, hold for 5, out for 7. Do something like that for 10. And what you'll find, you've hijacked the amygdala, you've hijacked the fear center, and the emotions just calm right down. And then you say, okay, let's focus just on this one area that you've isolated. Let's focus just on that one area. How does that place feel? And they're able to re-engage, okay, because of breathing. This is why music is amazing. You want to know part of the reason why music moves you, or singing moves you? Because it forces you to breathe differently. You're literally taking over your emotional center when you sing. So that's why, or the reason why we're so moved is because we're taking over, we're hijacking the amygdala. Why is exercise so good for you? You're hijacking the amygdala. Once again, You're breathing heavy. You're making your body do something it's not supposed to do. And so it releases those endorphins, helps you calm down. Breathing. The immanuel process. This is another one where if somebody is really overwhelmed and they're just not able to process, and you've tried everything throughout all the other processes, you've tried everything you possibly can, and it's not helping, they're still just radically overwhelmed. You've done the breathing, they're still radically overwhelmed. Then what you can do is what we call the immanuel process, part of this anyway. The immanuel process where you say, okay, let's take a step back. Let's just be present here in this room. So we're gonna leave the memory where maybe somebody was abused, there was physical, sexual abuse there, and it's just so overwhelming they can't even look at it, or they're in it and they're experiencing like a PTSD type of experience. You say, okay, let's leave that memory and let's just keep your eyes closed and just focus right here in this room. If Jesus could just walk into this room and he could sit in front of you as his daughter, and he could look you in the eye, he could hold your face, and he could be present with you right here. How does he feel about his daughter right here on the couch, fighting as valiantly as you are, trying so hard, willing to step into any amount of pain to give that territory back to him? How does he feel towards you presently right here in this room? And that is very powerful a lot of times, and will help people just go, okay, he is very proud of me. Whereas before in the memory, we couldn't even get Jesus to the memory. It's too overwhelming. We can't even get Jesus to the memory. So we just get him in the room. Just get him present here. And then once we establish, yes, he is proud of me. And what would he say to you how would he interact with you right here in this room? If he could hold your face, look you in the eye, how would he interact with you? And they would say, he says he's so incredibly proud of me. He loves me. He's going to be with me, and he wants to help me process this. Okay. Can we bring the two of you, you and Jesus, and go look at that memory now? Yes. Okay, let's go there. And it's calmer. It's more peaceful. They have the presence of Jesus with them, and they're able to look at the memory. Sometimes if they're not ready to go to the memory yet, we can get closer to it. So we arrived at, when they were 8, but in order to get to 8, we went to 15 when they were 15, when they were 27, so let's go to the 27-year-old. Can we bring Jesus there? See if we can get that resolved and just walk closer and closer till you get to the memory, bringing Jesus with you every step of the way. So that can be incredibly powerful as well.